Should you be using Grammarly and other writing aids to create more clear and easy to understand copy? Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. There are some wonderful tools available today, from artificial intelligence to grammar tools to writing assistants, that help you with the editorial process. There are inherent benefits of these tools, and we'll talk about some of those benefits, but there are also dangers associated with these tools and things that are going to make your copy less effective. First off, we're talking about direct response copy that tends to be emotionally driven copy that helps a prospective buyer make a decision to take a specific action. So it could be copy that gets them to raise their hand and ask for more information. They've identified a problem in their life and they're ready to commit to a solution, but they're not ready to commit to your solution, but they just want some more information and you need to get them to raise their hand. Emotional copy very often is different than written words. So your copywriting is going to be more conversational, it's going to be more informal, and it's going to be more connective with the emotions of the reader. The big challenges with artificial intelligence, Grammarly, many of these popular packages, is that they are focusing on creating more academic writing. There's a huge academic market. So, for example, I have up on the screen Grammarly's uh, writing preferences in their main setting, because I actually do use Grammarly, and I'm going to share with you how to use these tools. I use a handful of tools in my writing, and it's all about productivity and the usage. But here they have preferences. So number one preference is adhere to APA, MLA, or Chicago citation styles. How many sales letters do you see that have actual citations in them? Now, when I write a position paper or a white paper, or I'm writing a technical document, definitely I want to make sure my citations are clean. I want to make sure my references are great. So when you're writing books, that's more valuable, but less valuable in a sales letter. Avoid starting sentences with a conjunction. Well, a lot of really good copy starts with "and there's more," or "but you might want to consider," because we're chopping the copy up to make it more punchy. We're making the copy more uh, engaging. And so Grammarly will actually make it less engaging. Now, there's a lot of other stuff that has to do with consistency. Those are good things. You want to make sure that you have a fluency of sound. But do you need to sound more diplomatic? Not really. You want to directly tell the reader, hey, look, if you've got a problem with hemorrhoids, you've got to take action today because it isn't going to get any better. And this is the medicine you take. You've got to be to the point. You can't be, well, if you were thinking about having a problem with hemorrhoids. No, you've got to be right to the point. The biggest risk I see with the AI tools and the Grammarly tools is this woke culture slipping into there. The warnings about gender neutral generic pronouns, inclusive language. There are times where you're going to help the reader realize that they're an idiot, that the problem they face has so many valuable solutions, and they're an idiot, or someone has tricked them, and now they have the opportunity to make things right. And so you can help them get a discrete solution. You can help them identify the problem and get the help that they need today. See, these are things where a lot of the AI copy and the Grammarly and platforms will actually genericize your language in order for it not to be very impactful to individuals. So I could go on for days about the challenges of these tools, but these are the same challenges as if you hand off your work to an editor. So, what do we do as copywriters in order to make sure that our copy remains impactful, that it has the punch it needs to have, that it has the connection to the specific audience, not this big, broad, generic audience, but a specific audience? And it starts right here with tip number one. First off, you are going to have to fight for every word on the page. If you write something on the page and this Grammarly tool or some other person or some editor says, I think that language is offensive, you need to be able to fight for that and know why you have that wording in the copy. There are times where the customer reading your copy realizes they're an idiot, and you've got to identify that. You may be reading this here today and feel like an idiot. You may feel like you failed in the past because you didn't take the actions necessary and you still face this problem after all these years. And finally is the time that a solution is available. And then you're going to set up the justification that, well, you might feel like an idiot, but you're not actually an idiot because there's all this stuff in the past that made those solutions not work very well. And that's why our new and improved solution is going to help you solve the problem. And now you've got an editor or somebody saying, well, we don't want to make people feel bad about themselves. Well, no, in copy, there are times you're going to make people feel bad about themselves because you have a solution. You're not making them feel bad just to be mean. You have a solution for them. There may be times where you have noun streams, for example. You might have string together some things to demonstrate the idiocracy. And I don't have an idea right off the top of my head, but essentially, you may call out the widget. So there's a construct in copywriting where you have you call out the widget by its functions because you're selling simplicity. So you say the web browser slash editor slash email program slash everything else. Wouldn't it be nice just to have something that surfed the internet without all the distractions? Here's our simple solution. You may want to string all those nouns together because you're ultimately setting up the contrast between the this one size fits all does everything for everybody actually doesn't do anything for you as the reader versus this simple solution. So fighting for the words on the page, making sure that you can justify every word. If you're going to call somebody an idiot, you're going to call somebody a retard, you're going to call somebody something, you're not actually calling them directly. But again, these tools are they're picking up keywords. And so they say, oh, we can't use the word retard. Well, there are times where I felt so retard means an inability in one area or limited capacity in a single area. Um, it's it can be used with tastefully inside a copy, but my argument is that a lot of these AI tools so far don't really um, they don't see that context as well as a human would, and so you have to make the justification and keep it. Um, there's times where the tool I'm constantly telling Grammarly to dismiss. So I'm working with something and I want to use the word take because I'm implying that the reader is now responsible for their action. They agree that they have a responsibility. And before they felt like they had no choice, now they have a choice, so take action now. Well, Grammarly recommends that we have something that's not take. It's some other word, and you're thinking to yourself, it doesn't make any sense. You have to understand that you are the copywriter, and it has to make sense to you because we're writing with a different purpose than the majority of the users of these tools. Very often, I will have conversational language rather than a, a a written language because I want the reader to have that story in their head so that they can make action. So right now I have a section in this book that I'm editing, and this I'm actually editing Establish Instant Credibility, and I have a headline that says this method is about packaging what you know into credibility building tools. There's no period at the end of that. It's a subhead. And then we go into the opening paragraph, which is what you'll learn about creating information products that sell, like special reports, will help you communicate. Well, I know my reader knows what a special report is because it's a professional audience, but they don't necessarily know what information products are. And so what I'm doing with that sentence is bridging the two concepts. And it could be a better written sentence. So reading it out loud, maybe there's ways of shortening, maybe not, but I want them to know that we're building tools to help them communicate their credibility. And so my first paragraph here isn't the 15 things that Grammarly suggested. This paragraph has a purpose. So again, when you're using these tools, you want to think about, okay, so we got a subhead here and it doesn't need punctuation, or maybe it does, maybe an exclamation point, maybe a question mark. And then immediately after that subhead is going to be some kind of transitioning paragraph. So the full paragraph continues internal or external to your business. The right materials can have power even when you aren't present. Because the whole premise of my book is how do you establish credibility when you're not there to establish credibility? And you do so by special reports, positioning papers, other materials that you deliver in advance of the presentation itself. And then the rest of the book goes in to tell you how to do that, how to know what audiences, all those details. But again, the tools, Grammarly, I know I'm not picking on Grammarly, but it's the tool I use. Many of these tools don't understand the context of subhead, head, uh, headline, leading sentence, benefit statement. And so you're going to have to know these things to do the work for you. Now, what's interesting is I've done a lot of modeling with artificial intelligence. I can take a forward from my book and turn it into a lead generation piece. And it does an okay job with that. But I can't take some random paragraph or some random chapter in the book and turn it into a lead generation piece because I have to feed it good context. So here's my point here. You can use these tools, like I've shown before. I'll use the Hemingway browser app, and I'll layer Grammarly on top of that, just for the purpose of getting down to like a fifth or sixth grade reading level to get the words as concise as possible. But if you feed it garbage, it will give you more garbage. So, as a copywriter, as a marketer, you need to understand that audience in deep, intimate detail. You need to understand the topic that you're writing about in deep, intimate detail. You also need to understand the fundamentals of persuasive copy. And then, just like you would with a real human editor, just like you would with an AI editor, you've got to fight for every word. Grammarly is constantly I told it like five freaking times to dismiss and not try to change this word, but now it wants to go at it again. I use Grammarly for clarity, for conciseness, for focus, and getting a second person's opinion. But it's not a person; it's a machine, and the machine is going to do what machines do. And maybe one day in the future these tools will be better. But again, if you're writing copy to sell, you have to understand the context of that type of media, that type of content. Then, when the tools make suggestions, you need to stand firm to what's appropriate and what's not. And then finally, when the tool does suggest something that makes it more readable, and this is the last tip that's critical, is that you can't take its modification in the context of that sentence. You have to go reread the whole paragraph and think about it, because what will usually happen is it's catching something that you didn't see. Because when we edit our own work, we're the worst people to edit our own work. But it catches something you didn't see. And when you read that whole paragraph, you're like, oh crap, I got to rewrite the whole paragraph because it doesn't say what you intended it to say. And then what's frustrating is a lot of times these tools are still trying to engage. So when we talk about the writing process, we initially write with no distraction, and then we write with minimal distraction, and then we might write with full-blown distractions, but ultimately the writing takes preference to the distraction. So don't be afraid to turn off the tools, rewrite a paragraph, rewrite a section of your piece, and then put it back together. So what kinds of things am I editing with these tools? Well, this is a book that I think is uh, 10,000, 20,000 words. I'll let that run in the background. Let's see, it's 25,616 words. But I also use Grammarly and such to edit short form articles and other materials. Grammarly is not the only tool. It just happens to be the tool that I'm using right now. But again, what's more important than the tool itself is the structure, the persuasiveness, the connection with the specific audience, the writing for purpose. The big challenge with AI and these writing assistants is that it's going to start making everybody's copy sound exactly the same. It is a conforming bias that's going to make all your copy sound similar, and then you won't have the unique perspective that many audiences look for. So there are times where you just write the copy because you want to connect to that reader. And again, I'm not calling my reader an idiot, but I'm helping the reader realize at times that they've been an idiot in the past, and they don't have to keep being an idiot because it has all these problems and drawbacks. And if they would just do this one thing, it'll take them from being the town fool to being the town hero. So we're taking them on a journey from where they are to where they want to be, or where they see themselves to where they want to be. And again, these tools get in the way of that. They, you know, They don't want you to, call somebody a little sissy inside of copy. Uh, any of these things, I think a lot of people see these things as bullying these days, but really when you look at classic copy or you're talking about the conversation in somebody's head, there are times when people call themselves they're too weak, I'm too weak to stand up for myself, and that's why they're buying a program on having greater confidence. That's why they're buying a product that makes them look better. You have to address that. Even in women's makeup, they present that you aren't good enough the way you are, so you've got to buy our product to be beautiful. And so if we are, I'm not saying this is right or wrong to do these types of things, but when you're using these copy tools, it very often gets in the way. So finally, I want you to learn the fundamentals of copywriting. I want you to implement those fundamentals. And then when an editor or a tool gives you feedback, the only feedback that really matters is that of your customers. And if you're able to help somebody by maybe going a little hard approach up front, or maybe taking a soft approach that's even softer than you might imagine, you don't know until you test the copy. So use these writing tools to help you write faster, to write more clear copy, but ultimately, those words on the page need to be your words on a page. It can't be what the AI suggested and just assume it's going to be good. It's got to be what really matters for the research you put in, for the audience match, and for ultimately the offer that you have. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, and this has been about not letting those AI tools and editing tools get in the way of actually writing copy that sells. I can be reached at www.adbriefings.co.uk, where you can go to the contact page and ask me questions, or you can join our newsletter. Our email newsletter will not send you any spam, but ultimately will share with you more tips and tricks, as well as get you connected with free resources that will help you write better copy. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, and I'll see you in the next podcast.